Good morning, young kings. Time for your more motivation. Decided to jump on this morning. Later on this morning, I'll have my wisdom teeth taken out. So I was unsure about when I'll jump on and do another video. So I figure I'll get one in before my appointment just to get you the information out there. New location. I came downstairs to the man cave, just had it updated over the weekend. So I figured might as well put it on the video. Came out pretty nice. It was all white in here before, and just added a little color to make a lot of the accessories pop, and pretty pleased with the results. Everybody won't see your vision when you begin. Like when I started this vision down here, it was already a nice place to be at. The walls were white and people's attention was drawn towards the paintings and stuff like that. So when I introduced the colors to the guy that was gonna be doing the work down here, he's like, oh, I don't know. It's looked good already. So everybody won't see the vision in the beginning, but start anyway. It's time to get moving on some things that people won't see, because some people are consumers, they're not producers. And the difference between a producer and a consumer is like a producer sees something before it even exists, and they go into the lab and they start creating stuff. And then later, as the vision is completed, that's when a consumer comes in and they purchase what the producer has established, because they couldn't see it in the beginning or they wouldn't get started. They didn't get started when they saw it. So the producer starts beforehand, the consumer comes in at the last minute and they observe and say, hey, I like that, and they spend the money for that. So always try to get in at the beginning of something, because if you don't get in at the beginning, you're gonna end up paying in the end. So when you get your vision, when the Most High give you that download, start moving forward, because a lot of times when the Most High gives us vision, well, not a lot of times, when he gives us visions, it's outside the scope of our reality for that moment. And that's why we're reforming our reality. And it takes you faith to get there. It takes faith to even get started. There's a statement that says, faith is like coming to the edge of a cliff and there's nothing but darkness out there, and you just jump. And you jump knowing that one or two things are gonna happen. Either the Most High is gonna catch you, or he's gonna teach you how to fly. But don't let the fear of the darkness or the unknown stop you from beginning. Begin anyways, and you'll see the Most High will start providing for you. Like even when the children of Egypt were wandering in the wilderness, he fed them manna from heaven. And I'm gonna get into that probably in the next few weeks, because I think I'm transitioning into my manna from heaven series coming up in my retirement. I'm actually contemplating not even going back to work at all and just being free from punching a clock and doing what other people want me to do. Although I'm very marketable and I can go out there and I can get a second retirement. I've been in the Army 28 years, so even if I don't go back to work ever, I think I'm gonna take some time off if I do decide to change my mind and go back. And the reason I may go back is probably leading into this video. There's some debt that I need to resolve. Not bad debt, but just my appetite for nice things is probably needs to be tampered down some. So whether it come to houses, cars, and stuff of that nature, it's just, I need to be more financially responsible with the resources that the Most High has given me. And part of that is like, okay, me not going to work is gonna force me to manage my money a little more efficiently and effectively, and start, not saying that I will be a complete minimalist, because I like nice things, but just got to make sure that I do it in stages. So when I started this Reform My Reality, I told you there were some areas that the Most High wanted me to work on. And one was fitness, finances, and then, with the fitness came with the food. And all those are different things that I have appetite for. So 2 weeks into this, and I can say that that finance thing has probably been blown up. Like just redid the man cave, which I don't really call this spending money, because I converted my house into an Airbnb. So I'll get it back in investment. So I consider this an investment. But I had a friend Sante. So shout out to Sante. He knew that I had lost my my last PS5 was stolen. So he went and bought me a new one. I mean, he went and found me a new one. I had to pay him for it. But that is another $500+ that I didn't need to spend. Meaning, like, we've been looking for one over 3 or 4 months since the last one was stolen. And I had made up in my mind, hey, I don't even need one. I really don't have time to pay for it. To play it anyway. So I was going to just apply that money somewhere else. And I never got back with him to tell him that. But he continued on his search. And all of a sudden I get a call. I was like, hey, Drew, I got you a PS5. And I said, man, don't even worry about it. I don't even need it. And he said, man, I already bought it for you. Like, because last time we said you wanted it. And by the time you get back with me, it was gone. So I decided just to go on and buy it. So I couldn't leave him high and dry. So that's another $500 that I sent out to him to reimburse him for getting me the PS5, something I didn't need. And then also must confess that the last week I've ate out quite a bit, just going out to eat. And when I go out to eat, it's not just, to regular restaurants. I'm spending, anywhere from, if I'm by myself, I'm spending like $50, $70. And then if I take my lady, then it's over $100. So that is definitely some areas that I need to improve on, and I'll continue to grow. So I jumped on this video today because I wanted to talk to you all about the king's appetite. You got to make sure that you don't have an appetite for destruction. Don't let dysfunction be your default to things that you're going through. A lot of people, when they go through stuff, and not a lot of people, me included, it's like you start to sabotage yourself to comfort yourself. Whether it be somebody spend money when they're mad and stuff of that nature, they go out and they start spending a lot of money. A lot of people eat a lot of food, kind of, comfort foods when they're going through things. And the same thing they use to comfort them is the same thing that could be destroying them and preventing them from going forward in their goal. So don't let your dysfunction be your default. You got to get to a point where the king's appetite is still blessing not only you, but then the people that are surrounding you. So there was 2 stories from history around the king's appetite that I decided to get on and I wanted to share with you. One come from the 3 Edwards. It was King Renard III. And I got my notes here, so if you see me look down, that's what I'm doing. King Renard III was a king in the 14th century. They considered him duke, and the geographical area now is called Belgium. But he was the king, and he reigned over there. And he was a king that was given to his appetite, meaning that he loves his delicacies, he loved food. And so there was a revolt that happened when his younger brother led a revolt, and they overthrew King Renard III. But he didn't kill him during the raid. Matter of fact, what he did to him, it was a large man because of his appetite. He built a room around him. And he told him, like, you're not a prisoner. You can get out as soon as you can fit through this door. And he made the door a normal sized door. But this is a large man, and he has this appetite that's, that's above average. So he built this room around him in the castle, say, hey, you're not a prisoner. You can get out anytime you want. You can get out through the window, or you can get out through the door. You're not a prisoner. And you would think that this would be an easy thing, for him to just go on a diet, say no to himself for a little bit to be able to escape out of the room. But that wasn't the case, because his younger brother knew that King Renard III had a sweet tooth and had a taste for delicacies. So what he would do is that he would send his guard there every hour on the hour on a programmed time frame, and he would bring him the best delicacies that the country had to offer, whether it be meats, pastries, and he just fed them. So during a time where it was beneficial for him to say no to himself and trying to reduce in order so he can be free, the guy actually gained more weight and just continued to eat the delicacies of, his brother. So it got to a point where everybody said that the younger Renard was being cruel to him. And he says he's not a prisoner. He's free. He's in a castle. As soon as he can fit through the door, he can go out and roam as he sees fit. But he's enjoying the delicacies. This is what he wants to do with his life. And sure enough, continue to feed him the delicacies. The guy continues to get larger and larger until the younger brother gets killed in battle. And then they decide to deconstruct the room and let him free. But by that time happened, years had passed, and he had consumed so much of the food that he ended up dying himself. So the King Renard III was a prisoner to his own appetite. And I tell you, the appetite that we have as kings is not just food. If you got an appetite for fine things and you don't find a way to turn it into an investment and you find yourself just spending money, that can destroy you. There's a lot of people that are spending more than they make. And I've been guilty of that too. Spending more than you make or buying things on credit. And that is when you get beyond and your appetite is going to end up destroying you. If you got an appetite for women and you want the baddest woman, the Instagram model, and she's out and you want this trophy wife or whatever, if you get those women in abundance and you get the wrong women with you, that can really tear you down. It can really destroy you. It can get you distracted to a point where you won't be on task and on purpose. So you got to make sure you monitor your king's appetite. If you got the taste for food, which I know I have, I need to make sure that I restrict my diet. But food, our bodies, our digestive system wasn't meant to digest the food that we're eating. Like all these preservatives and stuff that we put in our food so it lasts longer. When I was living over in Africa, everything was made fresh, because they didn't have refrigerators to store it in. And you look through the country and there's no fat people there. I mean, they're walking to get to where they need to be. They're really still carrying baskets on their head. But every ingredient they put in their food is fresh. So they go to the market daily to get their food. It's no, okay, I'm going to go buy food for the week and put it in refrigerators. Some people that are well established, they may be able to get a generator and have a refrigerator. But even them, they still get their food fresh, get their food very fresh. And whereas in the US, we buy food and we put it in the refrigerator, but in order for food to last that long, there's a lot of preservatives and stuff that's put in there that's causing that food to last longer. But that stuff, those chemicals that's put in there, your body wasn't meant to digest those things. So you're eating 3 times a day, sometimes more, and before your body digests the food, you're piling a new food on top of the old food, and the old food is not digested yet. So we had to get to a point where our appetite is not destroying us. So identify what your appetite is and do not become a prisoner of your appetite, because that can really set you off track. The next king, it was in the 1200s, 1700s, excuse me, King Alfred Frederick. And now this was a king. He wasn't captured or anything, but he was a prisoner of his appetite. It was coming up to Lent. And matter of fact, it says it was February 12th, 1771. It was coming up to Lent. And Lent, for those who don't know, is the time of season where certain Christians and Catholics, they give up something for a period of time just to fast from it as a sacrifice to the Most High, to refrain from eating or drinking or doing whatever it is that they decide to do. There's some people in the U.S. that give up TV, that give up smoking, that give up eating, they give up drinking for this set period of time, just as a sacrifice for the atonement of sin that the Most High sent His Son to atone for our sins. So they just give it up. So King Frederick, Adolf Frederick, he knew Lent was coming up. So he knew that he was going to have to give up some things during Lent. So what he did is that he pre-gamed. He went and he created a feast before Lent started, calling himself building up. I guess getting ready, so he knew he was going to be without these delicacies for maybe a month or however long it was. So he decided to pregame, he's going to throw himself a feast. So he went and got lobster, caviar, greens, turnips, and all this stuff. And this is a true story. Look up King Alfred Frederick, 1771. If you Google the king who killed himself, who ate himself to death, it'll probably be on the top of the list. So don't just take my word for it. But he ate himself to death. Delicacies after delicacy, just trying to pregame for something that he knew he was gonna have to give up for a short period of time. So he's eating this lobster, he's eating the turnips and boiled meats and all this stuff. And that was a feast in itself. And then he washed it down with champagne. And then there's this delicacy that they had that he wanted some of. And it stated that the normal person would eat 4 or 5 within, 4 or 5 months, or probably 1 a month. This king here, he decided to sit down before Lent and eat 14. So he had just had this humongous meal. He washed it down with champagne, and then he turns around and he starts splurging on desserts. And his digestive system could not handle all that food. So it ended up leading to his demise. So even in this attempt to stop something for a period of time that he thought was going to be beneficial for him, his pregame cost him his life. And what's significant about this king dying was that this was the king of liberty. I mean, he was about giving the people's freedoms and, really empowering people to really prosper under his leadership. But he just had this destructive habit. So when he died, the next king that came in was harsh. So not only was he cruel to himself, he subjected everybody to his kingdom to harsh rule, because the king that came after him, let me see if I can find his name. The king that came after him, he started to restrict access to the media. He started to take back some of the rights and liberties that King Frederick had empowered the people to have. He started to get that back to himself. And so they went from liberty and freedom and enjoying a prosperous future to shrinking down back to becoming prisoner, because the righteous king could not control his appetite, and his appetite ended up destroying him. Dr. Dre used to have that song, The Appetite of Destruction. And that's what we have to make sure, that our appetite is not destroying us. Gustastan, and I'm probably pronouncing his name wrong, Gustav, Gustav, well, just look it up. But he ascended to the Swedish throne, and he proceeded to end the age of liberty, creating a dictatorship. So they went from being free to having this dictatorship, and he severely restricted freedom of the press. He also started costly wars with Russia, which ended up in defeat. So you go from a righteous king ruling, and then you get to a point where you get the next king in, and he's cruel, and he's ruling with an iron fist. You no longer have freedom of speech. You no longer have some of the civil liberties. So people may not respect you as king, but the one that comes after you may be even worse. So make sure your appetite as a king is in check. Make sure your default is not dysfunction, and that you are able to manage, your life through a way that's prosperous. And the way you're going to do that is through discipline. You got to discipline your appetites and restrict yourself for a period of time. Fasting is definitely an area that I need to go through a little more frequently and with a little more intensity. I fasted before, and this is something I'm encouraging people to try to do more. But the trick about fasting is that your mind starts playing tricks on you. Like the king wanted the pregame because his mind was telling him, eat it now because you're going to be without it later. And your mind will try to sabotage you along the way. But the thing with fasting, if you give up, if you give into that temptation, it's hard to get back started again. Every time that I attempted to fast and I found myself taking a break or being less than disciplined and just say, you know what, I'm just going to go get this one meal. And then something about the psyche of cheating in the fast doesn't allow you to get back on it easily. It's going to take a lot of discipline. So discipline yourself not to give up during the process, because as soon as you give yourself an inch, you're going to be running marathons. You know, you say you're going to take a break and you're going to just eat this meal because you're hungry. Then you realize you'll be eating, your mind will convince you, well, you already cheated. So technically you broke your fast. So you might as well go and eat this one. You might as well drink that. You might as well do that. And your mind will start sabotaging your progress. So we got to get to a point, and I'm saying we, because this is not a walk that I have already perfected. This is a walk in the journey I'm on. I'm just giving you an invitation along the way of how we can reform our reality by walking in the fullness of ourselves and becoming a higher version of ourselves. So it would have been much easier for me to already accomplish these things and then come back to you and say, hey, look at me. I walked this thing flawlessly. But then there would have been, you would have had a little trouble with that, because if I didn't share with you some of my inadequacies, some of my failures, when you came across those, you would think that it was just you that was challenged with in these particular areas. But everyone who's accomplished something great, it came out of sacrifice. It came out of discipline. It came out of just sheer grit and determination just to take that next step, even though they were uncertain about if it was going to succeed or not. So your ladder will be greater if you put in the work now. So there's a saying out there, you can pay now and play later, or you can play now and then you'll pay later. But you got to pay. So if what you're doing now, if your present is not paying, then your future will pay. If your present is playing right now and you're enjoying going out and you're enjoying eating and doing all these things, then realize there's going to come a time where their bill is going to be due and you're going to have to pay. So start investing in information, start investing in yourself, and discipline. Invest in discipline, self-discipline. Like, as kings, if you want to control someone to the fullest, try the man in the mirror. Control yourself. Say no to yourself. Be able to rule yourself before you try to rule others. And that's my walking journey too. It's like, hey, there's some things that I need to clean up in my own closet before I go try to address somebody else's wardrobe. It's a natural habit as leaders. We want to lead, but the one that needs to be led the most is the leader himself. Be well, young kings.